Grange Public Library Board of Trustees meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. May I have a roll call, please?
Katie?
Here.
Lisa?
Here.
Vicky?
Here.
Chantel?
Here.
Brittany?
Here.
Jessica?
Here.
Jennifer?
Here.
Okay.
Thank you. So we do have some visitors, both virtual and in person. We have Nicole and Rebecca and Peter. And then, is it Martha? Yes.
Martha.
Yes.
Martha Troder, yes.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Do we have any public comment?
None received.
Okay, great. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I motion
Go ahead.
to approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Katie?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Vicky?
Aye.
Chantel?
Aye.
Brittany?
Aye.
Jessica?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Well, with no current business, we'll move on to our first item of new business, which is the audit presentation. So, welcome Martha from Sikitch.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Martha Troder, here representing in place of Kellen O'Malley, who's the director on the library's annual financial statement audit engagement. The fiscal year April 30, 2025 audit process has come to a close, and I will be presenting to you the annual financial report and touch on the board communication that were issued as part of the audit process. In addition to those two reports, the Sikitch team has also assisted with the completion and submission of the State Comptroller annual financial reporting as required by Illinois compiled statutes. And with the assistance of the library and all the preparation and organization and assistance throughout the audit process, which I acknowledge is quite burdensome, we do ask for a lot of information, for a lot of support in order to be able to assist with the preparation and completion of the audit process. The library was able to meet the required the submission of items and the release of the audit in accordance with Illinois compiled statutes to have that information prepared and available within 6 months of fiscal year end. I'm going to share my screen, and that's helpful for you to follow along, and I will just briefly go through the annual financial report that was issued. If you have a copy along with you, I'll list out the page numbers. The library's annual financial report, the first piece of information that you may want to look to, the independent auditor's report, which begins on pages 1 through 3 of the annual financial report. That is where you'll find our opinion on the library's audited financial statements, and I am pleased to report a clean, unmodified opinion on the library's financial statements as of and for the year ended April 30th, 2025. That is the highest level of assurance that we can provide based on our testing that was performed in accordance with generally accepted accounting standards. As I noted, and just wanted to highlight again, an audit is quite a process, and the library has to go through this annually, and this is in addition to the daily operations and functions of the finance team. So we are greatly appreciative of all the assistance and the organization provided to us to allow us to prepare and to provide this clean, unmodified opinion on the financial statements. A couple of items of note on page 1, there was a GASB pronouncement implemented during the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2025 related to the presentation of compensated absences. Historically, compensated absences were reported for long-term accrual balances that are paid out at employee termination. Under GASB Statement 101, the new requirement is to also calculate a likelihood of use of any accrual balances that do not get paid out at termination, but can be used by employees in the future. So for instance, sick time that can carry forward into future periods that does not get paid out at separation. A calculation was made to estimate what the likelihood of employee usage of that time is, and that there was an additional liability determined based on that requirement. along with this requirement, there was a restatement to the library's net position. These are long-term balances, so it only impacted the library's entity-wide financial statements, which I'll touch on briefly in a moment. There was also a restatement to correct a portion of the restatement reported related to the library's transition of its accounting software. In the transition process, there was some variances noted in transitioning from the old version to the updated version of the accounting software, and due to that discrepancy, there was a restatement made to reflect that correction of error. So those are two items that are unique to this fiscal year that I wanted to just highlight for you. The statement of net position and the statement of activities, which are on pages 4 and 5 of the financial statements, are reported to you on a governmental activities, so the library in total at a full accrual basis of accounting. So these include long-term assets and liabilities of the library, those compensated absences balances that I discussed, those items that are not expected to be paid out within 1 year, but in subsequent future years, long-term liabilities such as those associated with the library's net pension liability for its IMRF plan, long-term assets net of accumulated depreciation, so those tangible but long-term non-spendable balances associated with the library's capital assets are reported on these financial statements. Those are the types of items that are reflected on these financial statements that you don't typically review in your monthly financial reporting. It is required reporting annually in accordance with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. As I noted and touched on in reviewing the independent auditor's report, those restatements, so you see on page 5, the portion of the restatement associated with that change in accounting principle, decrease in the library's net position, beginning of year net position of 14,900, and the correction of error due to the change in the accounting system of 19,500, resulting in a total restatement of 34,458. There is an additional footnote disclosure on page, I believe it's 26 of the financial statements, where you'll see additional detail as to the description of these two restatements. Overall, on a full accrual basis of accounting, the library did report a increase in its net position of 814,709 over the previous fiscal year.
Can you say that number again?
Yes, the increase in net position associated with the fiscal year 2025 activity was 814,709. And that's on that full accrual basis of accounting. So moving on to where you'll find your modified accrual financial statements, more in line with what you're used to reviewing and in reports on a monthly basis, and more in line with what you're basing your financial decisions on, is the balance sheet for the library's general fund and the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances following that. That is on page 6 and 8 of the annual financial report. On that modified accrual basis of accounting, so this is, like I said, more in line with what you're used to reviewing on a monthly basis outside of year-end accrual adjustments that are made as part of the annual financial audit process. However, a couple things to note here. The library's fund balance at year-end was $3.5 million. The unassigned fund balance of $2.3 million. That's the portion of fund balance that's available to spend on subsequent year operations without any restrictions as to the source of those funds, or in this case, the library doesn't report any non-fundable items. However, the restricted fund balances, those are the fund balances associated with revenue streams that are restricted for specific purposes, for instance, the library's endowment or working cash components. And the committed fund balance is associated with commitments specifically dedicated for a particular purpose. So there is $992,000 of fund balance committed for the special building fund, so for future capital.
can I ask a question on page 6 when we begin with assets? When I see cash and investments, I see 5,477,000. That number reflects how much we have in like our accounts, cash.
And the accounts at April 30th, correct, at fiscal year end.
We have $5.5 million. And we take in how much in property taxes? Is that the $3,000,001?
So the property tax revenue for the fiscal year you'll find on page 8. Fiscal year revenue was $3.5 million of property taxes.
That's kind of different than what we saw when we were looking. I think it's $400,000. We can just watch that a little bit.
We were having a previous conversation on, so we saw you on page 8, your taxes and revenue is 3.59, which is what you mentioned. But we were looking at a different report that said we got 3.1. And we were trying to understand the difference between those two numbers. Jen knows what goes into the 3.1, and would you be able to share some insights into how the 3.59 is a little more all-encompassing?
Yeah, there are some adjustments related to, depending on the tax levy year and when collections are made on different tax levy years, a portion of tax levy collections funding subsequent fiscal years, for instance, are deferred to be reflected as revenue in that subsequent fiscal year, as well as there's a portion of revenue. Property taxes are subject to accrual for a 60-day window. So any receivables, any property taxes collected within 60 days of the previous fiscal year were subject to accrual in the prior year. So those are adjusted for. Any collections made on the levy within 60 days of the library's April 30, 2025 fiscal year end would be reflected as receivable and impacting the revenue reflected for the reporting period for the year ended April 30th, 2025. So there is some fluctuation from a cash basis collection standpoint as compared to the levy year that is intending to fund the fiscal year, as well as any accruals adjusting those collections made within that accrual window.
Okay, but when I look at last year's, I see 3,387,000, which is still more. I think when I see less last year, if this number is higher than we anticipated.
I could look into it, or I can reach out to Kellen for a bit more detail as well. As I wasn't as detail involved in the audit process, but we do have testing work papers associated with the balances that are reported. So if there's additional questions on the property tax revenue and what's reported here, I can certainly gather some data and provide that information.
Thank you. And can you define culture and recreation as an expenditure? What does that entail?
So your financial statements, there is a categorization of functional expenditures under Government Accounting Standards Board reporting practices. And culture and recreation is typically what libraries or parks, for instance, report their activities under a culture and recreation type of function. So they're further on in the report, and I can show you where you can find that information. You'll see a further breakdown of what makes up that culture and recreation reported balance here. That's reflected on your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. There is a detailed expenditure schedule later on in the report in the supplemental information that shows what makes up that $2.68 million. I can pull that up for you. So it's actually the very last page of the financial statement. So that culture and recreation is your operating expenditures, your personnel, services, materials, fringe benefits, contractual, miscellaneous, anything that's not considered debt service, which are your principal and interest type payments, or there was no capital outlay specifically reported in fiscal 2025.
Can you repeat that last sentence? Or there was nothing reported?
Because there were no capital outlay specific expenditures for the fiscal year reported, so all of your materials and supplies, for instance, are non-capital type of materials and supplies expenditures.
So we didn't have.
Capital outlay would,
I'm sorry, you broke up. Capital outlay.
so all of your operating expenditures outside of what is reported as debt service is reflected as culture and recreation for fiscal year 2025.
And that was 2 million.
2,682,229. That detail is on the last page of the report.
So personnel, oh, this is where we had another question.
Do we have other questions? Anything else for Martha?
So on this last page, what is fringe benefits? What goes into that account?
Let me take a look for you. I can see if I can pull that out quickly for you.
Investment income.
That would be your insurance related, medical, unemployment, workers' comp, IMRF, and FICA type payments. So any benefits associated with payroll salaries.
And you also had a question about the interest income discrepancy with the budget versus actual.
Thank you. Yes, on page 27. So under revenues, you see investment income, and then originally we had thought 56,000, and that amount came in at 260,000.
I'm sorry, you said that was page 27, page number 27?
Yes.
So revenue, investment income we have been seeing pretty significant increases in investment income. So it may just be, it was budgeted for conservatively, and you had a healthy investment year in terms of what the interest rates are in the market, what you were receiving for interest income. It is, we've been commonly seeing increases over what's been budgeted for, in terms of what is reported as actual investment income as compared to what's been historically budgeted for.
That's sizable, though, considering interest varies just like fractions of a point, if a point at all. Are these projections going forward the same, less, do you know?
So we're not really making projections, but the interest rate market has continued to remain healthy. So we would expect, as your balances in your investment accounts grow and the continued high interest rates, we would expect to see continued high interest earnings.
Jen, that's a number you determined, the original.
Yeah, and remember, this is even higher than we budgeted classically in that number. If you remember from our budget discussions from last year, so this is higher even if conservative.
Because we were riding that curve for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And
And remember too that this is from May 1 of 2024 through April of 2025, April 30. So we also are crossing some of that higher interest time as well too.
So even last year, I see investment income projected at 1,000, and we came in at 183,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't really adjust for that. That's significant to me. Just
What's
wanted
the
to note.
nature you're concerned that are you concerned
That's a
that?
huge gap. So when I look through financial reports, I'm looking at percent change.
No, I get that part, but I'm wondering, are you concerned about the accuracy of this information, or are you thinking
No,
more ahead
just-
to like when we're planning for budgeting this coming year, of adjusting, maybe being less conservative? Because that's a conversation for a different time.
And just for
That's-
the board to be aware.
Right, no, and duly noted, but I don't know that right now is the time to be having that conversation. That's more of a budget planning. Yeah. I mean, if you have a concern about the accuracy of the audit information presented, we can talk about
Not
that.
accuracy, I'm just looking at spreads.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those are
noticing
good
the
points we
timeline.
can take when we're
Yeah.
working on the budget.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
next year.
Like,
And then
let's-
making sure what my assumptions are. You know, I don't know all these numbers, so
right.
I'm working through this as we go. It's a learning process.
No,
Super
for
curious,
for
but
sure.
thank you.
any other questions? Do you have anything else for us, Martha?
Unless there's any other questions on the annual financial report or the audit process, the other report that was issued is the board communication, which contains required communications to those charged with governance. I can touch on that briefly.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So a much shorter report. The key communications begin on page 2 of the board communication. And what is reported here is required by auditing standards to report to those charged with governance. So as I previously noted, and as was mentioned in the annual financial report in the independent auditors report section, there were changes in implementations of GASB pronouncements that impacted the financial statements. So that GASB statement number 101, the change in how compensated absences is reported, as well as the implementation of GASB statement 100, which the change there impacted really the footnote related to the restatement. So there was some additional information that previously hadn't been reflected when there was a restatement of net position or fund balances. That classification of if a change is a correction of an error or if it's a change related to implementation of accounting standards. So that is the language that you'll see based on the implementation of GASB statement 100. Also, we disclose significant accounting estimates that are reflected in the library's financial statements. We do rely on IMRF actuarial valuations to reflect the balances reported for the library's IMRF liability. And we do disclose that those we consider to be significant estimates from the factor that those are material balances, material to the library's financial statements, and also because we rely on other experts, the actuaries, and their assumptions that they're using in calculating those reported balances. Had we encountered any difficulties throughout the audit process, that would be disclosed within this communication, and we had no such items to report. Also, if there had been any disagreements with management throughout the process, this would not be the first time it was brought to your attention, but it would also be disclosed in this letter, and there were no such items to report. As I noted, the library staff was exceptionally helpful and professional throughout the course of the audit, and we appreciate all the time and effort put into preparing for and assisting with the process. The paragraph regarding corrected and uncorrected misstatements. Later on in this report, you'll find a listing of audit adjusting entries and what we call past adjustments. So this paragraph is just to note that there were some audit adjustments noted. Of those that are listed, only 2 were considered material to the financial statements that were AJE 1 and AJE 11, which are disclosed here in this paragraph. Those listing of journal entries can be found beginning on page 5 of the report. So those were the year-end adjustments that were made to reflect the balances in accordance with GASB and GAAP reporting. And the schedule of past adjustments on page 8, you'll find the village did have in OPEB, their post-employment benefit plan consideration. That liability is not considered material to the library's financial statements, so it has been reported as a past adjustment at the implementation date of GASB 75 when that became applicable. So this is carried on the past adjustment schedule to show what the estimated OPEB liability of the library is that is not reported in the financial statements. And then in the management letter is where we would disclose if there were any items that came to our attention that we considered to be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. There were no such items that came to our attention throughout the audit process. We had nothing to report of that nature. We had no other comments or other deficiencies noted throughout the course of the fiscal year 2025 audit. The only item reported here is in the appendix, which is a status update on the previous year's comment that was reported, just regarding the level of audit adjustments, the year-end close process, essentially making sure that at year-end, any of those accrual adjustments that were recommended as part of the audit process, those could be made as part of preparation for the audit to eliminate some of those adjusting journal entries. So we do consider that comment to remain applicable. Any questions on the board communication?
That last piece, that the comment on the journal entries, this is the second year that it's applicable?
Yeah, so it was a comment that was disclosed in the previous year's report. So we always evaluate whether a comment has been implemented or if it still remains applicable and maintain it in this appendix so that you see whether something has been eliminated or remains applicable. So we are just based on the level of journal entries and that there were 2 material entries, we do consider this comment to still apply.
Okay. Is that something, Jen, that we could address next year? Or is this just solely a timing thing that this out of our hands to?
These 2 things are timing and other vendor things that have come up. So I would be happy to talk more in detail about them if y'all want to hear it.
Okay.
But it should be addressed by next year for sure.
Okay.
I have a question. Are there any, so that GASB 101, the compensated absences thing has been a huge thing over our head for the last couple of years, knowing it's coming. Are there any like in the pipeline that are coming up now that one's been implemented?
That is actually a great question. We do have we have other comments listed where we list future accounting pronouncements that may have an impact on the library. GASB has slowed down a little bit with the standards that they are coming out with. So in addition to GASB 100 and 101, which impacted the library this fiscal year, previous year you had GASB 96, the prior year you had GASB 87 and 94. So GASB has been very busy, but there are currently only 3 pronouncements to be implemented, one that will be impacting fiscal year 2026. And that one we do not expect to have a material impact on most of our local government clients. Subsequent to that, there are 2 that are effective for fiscal year 2027. So we are listing anything that is applicable at this time. We'll be providing trainings on the implementation of those and assistance and guidance on the implementation of those. But for the upcoming fiscal year, the current fiscal year, nothing as significant as what you had to implement the recent years.
Yes, they've been.
Yes, it's been a lot of work.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
I think we're good.
Okay. And I can circle back with you all on the information, the requests for information regarding the property taxes specifically that were noted and the culture and recreation expenses.
Sounds great. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. Next up, we have Nicole doing the teen services presentation.
Let me see. was in Canva today.
Am I able to
What do you need?
have your laptop up here so
Yeah.
that I can go through the slides?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want my mouse too, or no?
I'm assuming that the one on here will work, right?
It should.
Yeah. Well, hello. I am Nicole. I'm the Teen Services Librarian. I guess first of all, thank you for having me here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I in a tandem with my supervisor do for teen services and the teens in our community here today. So first of all, I am going to talk just briefly about sort of the main things that our teens in this area need, their needs and wants. It's not an exhaustive list, but these are sort of the top priorities, the things that we're constantly like brainstorming on different ways to try and meet these particular needs of our teens. So first and foremost, service hour opportunities is probably the number one thing that I get asked both by patrons and non-patrons, whether or not we have service hour opportunities for our teens. Space and community, as well as a safe, positive environment within that space and that community. I put graphic novels or manga. Obviously, our collections as a whole are checked out by our teens, but our graphic novels and manga are our top circulating collection in the YA department. And it is something that I kind of pulled out when I first came here, and it continues to grow. And I will talk a little bit more about that. And then school reading assignment list. That becomes really a thing during the summer, as you will find as I go through the slides, but we have some that go year-round as well. So first and foremost, I'm going to start with our service hour opportunities. Probably the one that most people would be most familiar with is our summer volunteer program. It does predate me a little bit. I started just before COVID, so we had a couple of years there where we were not able to offer any sort of volunteer services. So that I was kind of able to build it up a bit from scratch when we started back up. And we did start with our summer volunteers again. Started back in 2022. That very first summer, we wound up with 35 summer volunteers and continued to get people asking about it all summer long. People in the middle of July who still wanted to sign up. So, because of its popularity, in 2023, I decided to make this program a year-round program, essentially. The year-round program operates a little bit differently from the summer one. With the summer one, we make the applications available to them in April. We take applications, then we do training in May, and then they're here for the duration of the summer to help out with things. For the school year one, they are signing up to basically get an email list every single month telling them what opportunities they have for volunteering for that month. When we started, that first year, we wound up with 52 teen volunteers signed up for those notifications, and they completed a total of 350 hours. And in our second fiscal year of it, we wound up with 68 teen volunteers completing 420 hours, and that program is still growing. Continued demand for it. But in addition, these are some of the things that our volunteers do. Obviously, programs are the big one. On the previous slide, I had an image from one of our big, large-scale programs that we had in a summer a couple years back that we wound up having, I think, 8 or 9 of our volunteers help out with that. They were a crucial part of it. But in addition, if any of you remember the Mario decorations that were on our windows last summer, those were put up by teen volunteers. I also have the Teen Picks display here, so they have their own display that they also help curate and put up suggestions for. And then they help with other miscellaneous things too, like helping us search for book lists, like the Lost and Missing, helping with program prep if there's a craft that we need stuff done for. Just basically I allow staff to let me know anytime they need some help and could use a volunteer for that. So, in addition to the volunteer program, I also have started doing some programs that also offer them service hours. So the Crafting for a Cause program was actually inspired by a similar program that was promoted at, I think it was ILA 2022. So I decided to bring it here. And I started in 2023, October. And for that one, the teens, every single program, each one they come to, they get 1.5 service hours. Basically, they're making small crafts that then are going to help some sort of organization. The pictures that I have here are from this year's pet toys program that they did, and those all went to I think it was like the Hinsdale Humane Society to help give enrichment to their animals. The first program that I did had 5 attendees. But by now, I average somewhere between 15 to 16, sometimes more. And it was so popular that this last summer, I also added a couple of sessions in the summer as well. At this point, I am doing it almost every single month. I take off December because they have finals and stuff. So. And as an additional opportunity for those teens that really want to work in the libraries, are really community service oriented. Next year we will be having a teen internship starting. We're still in the creation process for it, but basically it will be a regular schedule. It will be a paid position, and they will learn about various aspects of the library world, everything from like collection development to outreach to administration. And give them, some real world experience and, grasp on what it means to be a librarian and work in the library field. So we're really excited to create this opportunity for them as well. And moving on to space and community, safe environment. First and foremost, we have quite a sizable community of regular teens who come to the library, and quite a few of those regulars come to our after-school hangout. As I note here, it can be anywhere from 15 to 40 kids who will show up for those. It does happen in this room right here. We open it up to them for about an hour and a half after school. It's on Wednesdays during the whole school year, and then during the 2 coldest months, January and February, we extended to Friday as well. And this becomes like their space during that time. And yes, I have pictures of kids there practicing instruments. They do come and practice their instruments. I can verify that. I have had my own little concert here. But in general, the things that we provide to them, we have a Switch and a PS5. We have board games that I bring down, just kind of the most popular ones. We provide them snacks. That will always get them to come, giving them food. Study space, and just in general, hangout space. So a lot of them, this year I've noticed I have a number of them that come and they hang out in one corner and they're all on their phones, but it's still giving them that space to have fun and interact with each other. Hey, look what's on my phone. What's on your phone? So for them, that is fun. And because that program has been so successful, it's probably our best attended program that we have, we're going to try and bring some of those aspects to our teen room itself. So coming soon, in fact, we've already ordered all of this. We have an Xbox system coming. We have more seating and more open space that's going to be in the teen room. My next slide actually shows you some pictures of what it looks like now. In case you haven't been up there before, where these tables are here used to be book stacks. We've moved those books to a different section now, so it's much more open. And I have some arrows showing you. This is where the Xbox gaming system will go. We will have more. We will have gaming chairs right there in front of it. We will have more chairs and tables. Right now we only have the one because we scrounged that one, but we will have some more coming shortly. And then we will also have some new pretty bins to put their board games and stuff in as well. This is obviously sort of a temporary attempt to try and make the space more inviting and more to meet their needs in hopes. It's our way of sort of trying to transition to what we hope that we might be able to offer them in the future with a renovation. At that point, it will be a much more tailored space, but this is what we can give them for now to try and meet them at what their needs are. So, and not only is the space about giving them the games and the place to hang out, but part of giving them that safe space where they can be themselves is also giving them opportunities to have positive interactions with staff and to participate in that community at large. So we have a few of the passive programming that I do. I have a bulletin board that has a lot of like interactive stuff that I put on it or voting type things. That will still be active. To the right there, I have the question of the day box, which also can be used as a positive reinforcement when we see them go above and beyond. But if they ask us a question, they get to take something from the box. You can see various little trinkets and stuff in there. And then the Team Picks bookmark is just a way for them to kind of recommend books that they like to their peers, a way to kind of get them involved in promoting the collection themselves. And speaking about collections, I'm going back to those graphic novels. Our schools in the area do actually typically have at least a small graphic novel and maybe a little bit of manga that they collect. But those collections tend to be small, so we are trying to supplement that in some ways. The manga especially is really popular with them. Most of those series are so long, a school cannot even hope to collect those. So we obviously have more space that we can try and collect some of those longer series. But in addition to just having the collection here, as part of our outreach, a couple years ago, I started a graphic novels book club at the Park Junior High. And I actually go there, bring books with me. It's a partnership between us as well as the Grange Park Library, and we have the kids come and they choose which books they want to do over the course of the year. They come, they talk about them over lunch. I think this last time I had 20 kids show up for it, so they get really excited about it. And in the new location where our collection has moved to, which is back over by the windows on that upper level, we have some space for the graphic novels and manga to grow a little bit as well. Plus, they're also going to be out of the sunlight. Where the teen collection was before, those spine labels get so faded so quickly that you can't even read them. So that also is nice that hopefully we will preserve those spine labels longer where they are. So, and last but not least, those school reading lists. So in the summer, I always know that summer is coming when LT puts out their summer reading list. And it becomes like a 2-week scramble of trying to pull the books and put them on display before the early birds come in and grab them all. But it really is it's one of our biggest sort of partnerships with LT. To pull those books, and then I also order multiple copies of the stuff that's going to be super popular, anything that's on the list that we don't already own, and make my own display for it. I also I make a book list for each of them that also shows if we have it in e-resources as well, or in audiobook format. And this just is a help to the patrons. It's also a help to the staff. Recently, the LT also started doing Battle of the Books. The junior highs and the elementary schools have been doing it for a long time, but the high school only just started doing it in the last couple of years. So I have also expanded this collection of pulling out stuff for school list to the Battle of the Books list as well, including both the junior high and high school. And I did bring an example of one of the lists that I made. This is for the junior high one this year, but it is similar to what I would do even for the LT list in the summer. So, Jen, if you want to pass this around, if people want to
I've
look
seen
at
it already.
So, so that is just a general overview of sort of the big hit things that we're constantly trying to think about. If you have any questions, I am happy to try and answer them.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment that I think the internship is great, and I love that we're paying them. I
Yes.
think that's very
That was the
important.
first thing I asked Jen. I was like,
Good,
oh,
okay,
are we going to
yes.
pay them?
Right, yeah. I think that's
More details about that to
Is
come.
there a minimum
Good
age for the
program.
internship? Do you know?
I don't know yet. That is something that we will be in the discussion process with. I do feel that we're probably going to be leaning towards slightly older versus younger.
Yeah, that's
So,
okay.
How many do you expect to take on? Like all that apply or?
no, we'll be starting a pilot program this year, so we may only do like 1 or 2 this year and then kind of see how things go. We obviously don't want to jump in with having too many, especially since this is also the same time period that we have volunteers. So I don't want them sort of competing for our time in that sense too, so.
And you mentioned the graphic novel book club.
Yes.
Is that part? Have you looked at doing it at GERD?
I will be starting that in January.
Perfect.
So.
Thank you. That sounds.
May I make a comment real quick?
Sure.
Piggybacking onto that, Guri came to us to do the graphic novel book club in part because we expanded our Cards for Kids access.
Yes.
And they felt much more comfortable doing programs like this with us, outreach events, because the kids could then have access to the books at the library. So this is just another more evidence that this is a really great thing for our kids, is now
Yeah.
Nicole can be even in the school more.
This is really cool. How do students learn about the Wednesday option to come after school?
I mean, we promote it the same way we do many of our other programs, but I will say that a lot of it is word of mouth. I typically will have, a core group that comes, the first few weeks or whatever, and they start telling other people, and their friends start showing up, and their friends start showing up. So a lot of it is word of mouth. This particular year, I actually have 2 groups because I have newer kids who are newer to the program. They're like 6th graders from CASA coming over, but we also have gotten a return of our group that was like our core group from a couple of years ago. They're still at Park, and they make the effort to come all the way over here for that program. They typically show up about 15 minutes later than the first group does, but that's why I've been having up to 40 kids sometimes in this room, because I have 2 groups of them. So.
And you feel you have adequate space for those groups, that size?
As long as it doesn't grow beyond 40. That was my worry at the beginning of this year when the first time I wound up, I actually think I wound up with 42. And I was like, we can't accommodate much more than that in this room. If it keeps growing, we might have to start doing a ticketing process. Because it's a lot of kids especially since they're not like just sitting playing a game the whole time. They're up and running around, they're coming and getting snacks, they're playing the musical instruments, so you get too many people, and it's, I don't want us to get in trouble with the fire department.
I would love for Nicole to talk a little bit about how she's been helping to train staff on interacting with our team patrons. You've done some training for all of us.
I mean, yeah, I've done a couple of presentations and sent out some emails.
Just about, interacting with teens, how to be supportive, understanding the teen brain a little bit better too. That's been a big impact. That's
Basically trying to get staff to the point where they're not intimidated by the teens. So they're more likely to try and have those positive interactions with them. So and they're not feeling like as soon as teens come through, oh, there's those smelly, noisy kids coming in again.
And you have adequate funding, you would say, for your programs?
I do at this point. We are looking at moving the babysitting training courses to the teen, coming out of the teen budget next year. And I think those are like, I want to say like $150 a class. So we're still looking at the possibility of like what to do funding wise for that. We may even have to wind up asking people to like pay a little bit in order to attend that class, but we'll look at options. That's the only thing that I can think of in the near future that could affect the budget in terms of teen programming and stuff. So in terms of our book budget, we're doing fine. But
And you know the Friends of the Library are always looking for,
yeah,
so you can apply there for grants. Yeah, monies. Great work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
really
really
cute. My daughter and her friends are always here, so I appreciate all the.
Was
Their
that your
names?
daughter in the photo?
Yes.
Actually,
Was
it names?
yes.
I know, so I always apologize.
okay.
No, it's wonderful.
I
Yeah,
maybe
they love
would
it
know
here.
their names or faces if you point them out. I don't know who their moms are, so this is the only one whose kids
Right.
that I recognize the mom.
Sydney volunteered this
Yes.
summer and had a really great time. She was so excited to come here and
Well, she was a great volunteer too. So
No, I like to get the text that, oh, Mom, I'm going to the library after school. Okay. Like, that's
safe.
good. You know,
I would love to get that text.
Yeah.
I dream of getting that text.
well, you need to tell them about the after-school hangout.
Hope springs eternal. But thank you. It's so wonderful to learn about everything you do and all the exciting changes. So thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you. And Jen, I'm
Thank
going
you.
to give you your. Okay, here, let me close out the program. Yeah, presentation first.
You can just open the PDF.
So Chantal, are you ready to talk levy?
I love the levy.
I know. This is the truth of my life.
More time!
As some of you know, we need money, okay? And the way we get the money, how it starts, we need money for next year, which starts May 1st. We need that money. So now we send a levy letter to the village requesting the amount that we would like. This is based on usually the CPI. This year the CPI is 2.9. We are asking for the full 2.9%. And we have verbal confirmation from some of the village board members that that's what they think they'll go for as well. We usually align with them, and that's why we try to ask, although they have not had their official meeting yet. We still feel confident we can send this letter. So unless anyone has questions on it, you'll see the amount of $3,150,950. That's the amount we are asking for. And then right behind that letter in the board packet, there's a resolution. So unless anyone wants to discuss further, I would move that we make a motion to pass the resolution. With corrections, because as I was going through it, I did notice a few errors. You'll see that in the total expense, it's like 3, 2, we have created a version
couple
for us
zeros
that had
just to
fixed some of these,
typos.
so we apologize for that. But we have gone through that and fixed them already.
Yes.
So yes, passing it with corrections would be good.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the levy as presented with corrections?
I motion to approve the levy as presented with correction.
I second. Any discussion? Roll
Katie,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Vicky,
Aye.
Chantel,
Aye.
Brittany,
Aye.
Jessica,
Aye.
Jennifer.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Do we usually get the full amount requested?
We usually get yes. And then, so you may have noticed in section 3, it talks about, there's a little fund, I shouldn't say that, there's a fund that the village and the library started in the late 80s. So when the village puts everything together with their bigger levy, so, and theirs is 70, 80 pages, you'll see in there that they will tack on 0.06% as well, and it's to capture whatever capital kind of comes out of that fund. So it's a small amount, it's like $10,000. So sometimes we get a little bit more, sometimes we get a little bit less. So like for this year, we're getting a little bit less, but again, that's before that final second tax bill has come in. So like, it's kind of a wonky year this year, but very close to, if not more, which is great. And it should be said too, a lot of that is due to the longstanding relationships that the library has had with the village. There are a lot of village libraries like us who ask for money and don't always get the money that they ask for. So, you know, for us to have a good working relationship with the village is very important, but also very helpful too. So they, you know, having a village that's invested in us as a civic service is a really nice place for us as staff to be too. And for you all that are our advocates, you know, in the community, that's also extremely helpful. We're doing all right. So far.
Anything else, Chantal, for that?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Wonderful. And that will be next Monday. Is it 7 p.m.?
Yes.
7 p.m. at the village. So that's when they present this is our like first kind of presentation. That's when the village does their first presentation. And I'm sad that I will not be here to attend it this year because I think it's going to be a very interesting one. But usually the treasurer and the president and the director, if they're available, will attend to answer any questions. Sometimes there are questions, most of the time there's not. And then the final passage of the budget happens at the December 15th meeting, and I will be available to go to that one too. But you're all invited. You can all go if you want.
Fun times at Village Hall. Okay, Lisa, you're up with some policy updates for us.
Policy updates. So we have 3 policies that we reviewed in our last policy committee meeting: the Freedom of Information Act, the social media policy, and one other one is the library card. Thank you, that we did final adjustments to. We put the final policies in the packet just so that everybody knows exactly what we're recommending and we did in the committee work, but I asked to have the red lines printed out. Well, I asked for them and Jen suggested we print them out. Thank you, Jen. And Joanne did that for us. So if you guys wanted to take a look at what the exact changes were, but we went over them with a fine-tooth comb in the policy committee. Social media was mostly updating some of the terminology, making things a little more modern. And for Freedom of Information Act, I think we were trying to take away some of the, clarify the burden of who does what of the workload for putting those together.
That one too, I worked with Peter to make some, so you'll see on the cost. There are some limits to the cost that you can give or you can pass along to the person making the request. So fees for voluminous requests, Peter and I looked at some of the inflation rate. You know, we were charging like $5. I mean, it was a very low amount. And to think about how much time it takes, but also like how much it costs to buy a USB if somebody wants that or something along those lines. So we did have to adjust those. So you all requested that we do that. You'll notice, or you you might notice on the red line copy, the last time this was looked at was like 2018. So this is one where we don't make a lot of like attempts to change anything because this is a legally binding, federal document. So that one I let the lawyers kind of look at it, and they just gave us the most up-to-date language. But the other two are more crafted.
Yeah.
But FOIA is pretty straightforward.
Who makes these commented EM1? The library cannot require.
I think that's
That's
lawyer.
Aaron Monforty.
we work with.
Oh, Ansel Glink is the firm that we use. She's our policy comment person. She's a policy attorney.
And then Jen, on the library card policy, anything else you wanted to highlight from the highlighted section at the end?
Yes. So one of the items that was signed into law in August of this year was that library boards could make the decision to allow people to pay their non-resident fees in installments instead of in a lump sum fee. So I worked with Rebecca, who's our access services manager, and she had suggested allowing people to be able to make their payments in 6 months chunks. So they'll, instead of paying for their card for the full year, the non-residents may purchase a card for the 6 month increment instead. It's a little bit easier for us to manage the biannually versus quarterly. Quarterly is a lot of work for staff, and it's also a lot of expectation for the patron to be able to come in and every 3 months renew their card should they choose to make that decision. So that was the big thing. We're still applying the same tax bill method. You'll still be able to decide that when we look at the budget again in March, because you guys always have to renew that as part of the Illinois Library Act. But we felt that it was we're suggesting that the board make this change so that it allows, again, for more accessibility. It's still the same amount across the year, but it's a little bit easier to swallow. Chantal was talking about her tax bill, she sees how much it costs. So if you pay half of that, it's a little bit easier to take out of pocket sometimes than the full amount. The other thing that we looked at was we had discussed keeping the non-resident Cards for Kids Act expansion just to LaGrange School District 105 at this time, and to not take it out to any other communities at this point. And the only reason is because of the vast amount of interest we've gotten from those partnerships. And I would much rather grow something in a small strategic rate than to just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. So that was just something we discussed that didn't change, but.
So we're keeping it to D105.
Yeah,
Okay.
for right now.
Because all of D102 has library coverage.
You got it. And
Isn't there a small part? Brookfield has their own library as well.
So District 102, you'll hear more about that in the coming year. We're working on some intergovernmental agreements, believe it or not. Chantal and I were talking about that earlier today. That have been in place for, Rebecca, when was the last time they were updated? 2009? So like at Villa Park, our intergovernmental agreements, we do them annually. We haven't done them here in almost 10 years. So yeah. So we're looking at that. You find something and you say, okay, let's take a look at it. Let's fix it up. But those are interesting because we do have a shared population. So we share some of the District 105 people with Hodgkins, right? Hodgkins has the majority of that school district. We have a small portion. So we're hoping in the long term, they're in renovation right now. They're actually in like a trailer situation they're building as a total rebuild. They were hoping to build some of the cooperative program like Nicole was referencing that we have with LaGrange Park and with Brookfield. So we'll hopefully have some different stuff to bring to you all in the new year too, about different partnerships with Brookfield and or Linda Sokol Francis Brookfield. They really want you to use the whole name. And LaGrange Park, again, a lot of it is LaGrange does all LaGrange. We do all the work. We'd like to share the work amongst our peers more evenly. And we've been on that pursuit since I started. So it's going slow, but it is going. So that's
When you
exciting.
said that the D105 was a big success, did you have numbers around that? I forget if you had
110.
110.
This
Awesome,
year.
110
That
children.
includes some of the free and reduced lunch, the normal, like previous cards for kids, but we've had 24 teens and 86 juveniles.
And we have really grown our relationships with the librarians as well, so not only are we getting the library cards to the kids, but we're really building up those relationships and getting in the schools.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really exciting it was kind of funny, the kids that live in Hodgkins and should get a Hodgkins card were like, why don't we get a card? And you're like, well, you already have a library, so you could get a card. And then we said, you can apply online because we all use the same, Swan uses the same form and it routes you to the right library. So they still got to participate even though they weren't getting a Lagrange card. They still got to feel like they were signing up for
that's cool.
their own library card. So I contacted Tim, the director, and I was like, just so you know, if you get a little jump and it's coming for library cards, tell us if you need us to stop because they're having just a double of the time over there. So, but it'll be beautiful once it's done.
Any questions or other comments on the policies?
Just on the library cards, a couple of them, like the resident and property owners paragraph where it talks about proof of current address, proof of home addresses right below it in property owners too. Is there any way to say like what that is? Because like it's vague to me, like what that means. Like they're supposed to bring a property tax bill, like it's not, what is proof, I guess?
Yes, we actually, the last time that we looked at this policy, we made it a little bit more broad because we have a list on our website of acceptable documents, right? Or if people call. So we do list that, but it changes so frequently. Like,
Got it. But it's somewhere that you can point to that someone's not like, well, it's not specific, so.
Yeah, like you can't bring your, and I'm going to say Bed Bath & Beyond coupon, even though they don't exist anymore. You can't bring that, you know, but you could show your FOID card and hit your home address on it. So like, you know, just to have us be able to have the stretch. The only thing it's really interesting with legal, they're the ones that recommended having like that letterhead or proof when it comes to businesses and corporations, because a lot of times you're a tax-paying business in an area, but you don't live here, but you're still paying taxes, so you have equity access to, you know. So they said to make sure that you have a proof of good standing from the Illinois Secretary of State in your most recent tax bill.
Yeah, no, I saw that there. That's why I thought, like, why aren't the others as specific?
Yeah, they recommended that one specifically, but I tend to trust Aaron's judgment.
No, okay. No, I saw, I mean, I stamped the check to the lawyer. I saw they looked at it. So.
You know.
As long as they're fine with it. I just noticed that it wasn't that specific.
No, it's like we actually, even on our website too, for our non-residents, we have a cost estimator so people can know how much it will cost before they come in. They can put in the property tax bill, and that multiplier amount changes every year. That comes from the Secretary of State. Tells us the multiplier. I think that's who it is. So, but it always adjusts just a little bit. That's why we have to look at it every year. It always usually goes up.
Can anyone get a Chicago Public Library card?
Chicago Public Library is probably the most restrictive in getting a library card. You can take your Lagrange card and do what's called registered reciprocal borrower. So Chicago has an actual website set up, like when someone from Chicago, if they want to register to use their card here, they can, but we have a web portal that we have to go into to verify their address, that they're in good standing and all that kind of stuff. So, but once you have a public library card in Illinois, you can go to any library in Illinois, and as long as they're registered reciprocal borrowers, which I think most of them are.
I think Elmhurst, I had to get a separate card.
Oh, that would cost money. I wouldn't.
They didn't charge me. No.
Well, it'll cost them money, but they would. All we really do is we would use.
That's why I wonder if you wanted to give teachers. I think a teacher would be like
covered
under
cards.
Chicago.
Oh, I don't know if teachers can register reciprocal in Chicago.
You mean a teacher that works in Chicago or lives in Chicago and comes here?
Someone trying to use the Lagrange Library.
But they have a Chicago card.
They don't live in Lagrange. Or they have a card from wherever.
Their home address is in Chicago, but they work here.
We have a lot of people that have Chicago cards. We actually don't. It's kind of nice the way we have it set up with Swan is that we can use the same number, so we don't even have to issue a new card. cards.
That's right, because Elmhurst is independent.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they're standalone. They're
You
like
do that too.
they're like us. They're standalone.
So they're not part of a Swan consortium. They're they're not standalone. They're part of Lincoln, right?
Well,
It's like a tiny one that's like
a basic
6
consortium.
libraries.
They do restrict some things I can check out.
And we do too. I mean, with
But there's no restrictions on anyone from anywhere, like registering for a class on the website.
Right.
There's no library cards used for that.
yeah, and I would never let a patron pay for a class. I'm firmly against that. That was the first I heard of that idea. So we will not be doing that.
Yeah, I feel like for $150 we can come up with a budget
It's
plan.
$150 per
Yeah.
class, and then there's a per person head count cost.
I think we could,
But I
should
think we-
cover
yeah,
that,
yes,
because that's a good
yeah.
service for people in here that I think.
Well, maybe it's a partnership, like with the park district, because that's,
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, well,
Yeah.
why are they offering that in the partnership? Like, it's
Yeah.
sometimes
It's true.
where's the line?
I think it does fill up though.
It does,
I
and
think
they
it
keep
does.
it
Yeah,
small.
it's popular.
Because they do like CPR and
They do
stuff.
like first aid
Yeah.
certification, I think, as well. That's probably where the.
Pretty cool.
But it's good that they've been doing that since I think I did it as a teen at my library. So
Yeah, I think we cover that.
Any other comments on the policy documents? Do we have a motion to, they need to be approved?
did you need to be approved?
Yeah,
They
but
need to be
motion to
stated
approve.
separately. You can
Oh,
approve them all at
okay.
once, but you have to state each policy name.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the 3 policies?
So moved.
Do I
Motion to approve the Freedom of Information Act request policy.
I second that.
Motion to approve the social media policy.
Can we do it all together? Right?
You just have to state all of them, but you could do one vote, but they all
Okay,
have to be
so we
stated
can just
with minutes.
state them all
Oh,
at one time.
Okay,
So
So then Lisa, you have.
so motion to
Go
approve
ahead.
the social media and then motion to approve also for the library card policy.
yes, and then you were
And then I
second.
second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Katie,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Vicky.
Aye.
Chantel,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Jessica,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
motion passed.
I thought you were saying it needed to be separate.
That is, it's one of those things I recently learned, is that you do have to say them all separately.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your work and the committee's work on those policies. And you too, Jen, of course.
It is such a fun thing. And I told you, we get compliments from our lawyers all the time about how easy we are to work with when it comes to policy. They have to make very few changes, so.
Very nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Gold stars. Okay, so finance committee. Any updates since we met last?
I mean, we've kind of discussed it all, and we already mentioned the village board meeting on the 24th on Monday for their primary budget, and then December 15th, if anyone's interested in coming, that's when they'll vote on their budget. So you're all welcome to attend those.
Excellent. And then your next meeting will be when you.
Do not have one scheduled.
Not till it's a big levy.
Okay.
Big L.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, friends update.
Yes, so Friends of the Library, we met with Becky, who is interested in standing up a foundation for the library. So it's like a very preliminary kind of brainstorming session that we had, I think, last week. But she is, I think a couple of like key takeaways from this would be anything that we're working to do with the foundation would be to coincide with the 20th anniversary of the new building. So that's not until like November of 2027. There's a lot of legwork and promotion that needs to happen until then. The reason that the Friends of the Library were included in the conversation and the committee from Friends of the Library were there and invited is that there are some synergies with what the foundation is doing, and the Friends of the Library would kind of, it sounds like one opportunity would be to have the Friends of the Library be kind of like a supporting pillar within the foundation. A lot more to kind of vet out and think through as that comes out. But I know that we don't have a meeting in December, so this will probably occur before our next meeting, but there's going to be an informational meeting here in this room on January 10th, which I believe is a Saturday, from 1 to 3. And snacks will be there. Yeah, so to learn more about it and some of the ideas behind the foundation. It'll just kind of be a Q&A. I mean, very informal conversation to drop by.
Can anyone start a foundation, do you know, or we have? Anyone can just decide, I like, okay. And this is the process they go through. Okay.
I think there's like tax implications, like she's got to get like all like kind of the professional experts kind of around it. Lawyers
And is this something we couldn't do with the Friends or by a separate entity?
So from my understanding, the Friends is really impactful in what they do, but this would be, for lack of a better word, like the Friends is a quaint little organization compared to what the foundation could do. I learned from what Becky was talking about on her being on different boards and pillars and everything else, that this is actually something that, for instance, wealth management experts, like around town accountants, banks could, like, they have clients coming in saying, well, where should I be putting my, donating my money? And so these are like large grants that we can get on these lists of the accountants and stuff to take larger donations.
We're pretty well funded.
These would be like the nice to have thing. The foundation would be able to raise private funds to support more of the nice to have things for the library for the next 20 years that we really wouldn't be able to pull off, I think, from the budget that we have. Is my understanding.
No, I think that's a great way to describe it. The Friends, it tends to be smaller donations, and the scope of their work, like you say, is important, but on a smaller scale. This would be larger donations and projects on a larger scale. So.
And Becky would receive like a salary for running?
No. So this would be all volunteer, and then there'd be I think this all needs to be vetted out. There'd be a board of the foundation. I think we're not. She talked about Jen being
Ex officio,
yes.
You attend but you don't vote.
Yeah, same with somebody from here. And then it would be people from the community that would be board members, similar to how we are not paid for what we are doing here. They get paid as much as us. How about that?
Okay, well, did someone get on your library email? Is there something, I flagged it, about you have funds in some account?
Oh no, but I did get an email saying that my Chipotle password got stated. So they're really trying to.
All right. Any other updates from the Friends? Any other Friends?
That's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Bethany, any Rails or Eiley?
I took some notes. There were a couple of things. The Rails put out a new resource to help promote L2, library learning, just the network for library staff to register for webinars and workshops and do networking. I guess they had a really successful month of signups, so that was good. ILA also issued a statement acknowledging that the Baker and Taylor closure is messing everything up. They didn't really have a solution, but acknowledged that was really difficult. They did say, though, that libraries have a no-cost or complimentary Amazon business account that they can use to try and support in some way. I assume we're doing all of that. And then there's a Senate bill that 243 that is sitting with Pritzker right now that allows for the freedom of the Freedom of Information Act request to deny if you can't verify that the person making the request is a human and not a bot. So they mentioned certain things like if it asks for the information in the body of the email instead of an attachment. So, so that was kind of interesting for the age of tech. I don't know why bots are requesting information, but that's a whole nother thing. And then Illinois expanded the eligibility and per capita amounts for equalization aid grants, which I don't think doesn't sound like will impact LaGrange at all because our tax base is too high, but really nice that it can help support people in lower tax income areas. So they're expanding from 17 public libraries serving about 77,000 residents currently to 108, and they'll serve over 700,000 residents. So bringing services to rural and underserved communities, or bringing them more in revenue into their libraries, so that can support facilities, technology upgrades, programming, materials, and things like that. That was kind of I don't know if you saw anything else.
That was really good. Thank you.
All the exciting news. Thank you for sharing. Policies, any big
We
plans?
just have more policies to go through, which I imagine we will do after the first of the year. So we will update you next time we have more policies.
Cool. Jess, any village news to share?
Not a whole lot. There's just more discussions about the e-bikes. There's just public comment about financial transparency, which they basically said as soon as we have that position filled, we hope to. As soon as we have the personnel, I guess was the wording they used. As soon as the personnel is available, we hope to. It sounds like there's no movement there. But otherwise, not a lot of, nothing that would really affect the library. I guess they cleaned the pipes or something, they're replacing pipes, they got a grant for, so maybe that's helpful, but yeah, nothing else really directly.
I think they're replacing the pipes actually right in front of two of our library employees' houses. Is that the stuff they're doing on Ogden?
Affecting the library.
On Ogden. Yeah. One of our shelvers and Rebecca actually live right on Ogden Avenue, and they've just had a devil of a time getting in and out of their house in that little area by the answer.
I guess it was like a $500,000 TIF grant or whatever those grants are, that you do. Yeah.
TIF.
Many of us.
Thank you. Jen, any highlights?
So I don't have a ton of extra stuff. I will answer any questions about the report. I was going to talk about the teen room, but Nicole already showed you, even I think put the same picture in my report that is in my report. So, but that's been really exciting. If you haven't been upstairs recently, we've really been working on kind of optimizing the space that we have right now. We have a vendor is donating to us a floor model of a CD rack for our audio CDs, which is very exciting. So we don't have to shelve them, face out, shelve them all. But Rebecca talked to them at ILA and they said, hey, we have this floor model. We'll send it to you for free. Do you want it? So, well, first they wanted us to pick it up and then Peter said, no, you have to ship it. So they're shipping it, but we don't know when it's coming. But it'll be here soon. So that's exciting. So if you see the CDs kind of on carts, it's really, these drawers won't hit you in the ankles when you walk past them anymore. It'll be very exciting. The other thing that I wanted to make sure I pointed out that you may or may not have heard, I don't know if you all are aware of this, but you in LaGrange are the proud owners of a Carnegie library. The first library was started with Dale Carnegie Foundation money, and Andrew. Who's Dale?
It's the How to Win Friends and Influence.
Okay.
I don't know if they're related. Who knows?
TBD. So we got an email that I thought was very spammy saying in honor of the 250th birthday of America, we are going to give all Carnegie libraries that are still in existence a $10,000 unrestricted grant. So
It does sound like a.
yes,
Yeah.
and then they called me on the
click here.
phone.
Put in
And
your
they called me on
account
the phone,
number.
and they were like, "No, it's real." So I've sent them a W-9. So W-9, yeah, right, whatever. I sent them the thing to send us money. Those big disbursements should be coming in January, but I thought that was the perfect seed money to start a few years of our teen internship program. So I would like to take the money and put it towards that. I don't know if Nicole knows that yet. She probably does not. But, to have a stipend associated with it, really thinking about what would a kid be able to earn in a summer job for 8 weeks. And so I foresee this being a couple year seed, and then long term, I'd love to have the friends, or if we do get to the point where we have a foundation, have it be a regular arm where that could be a donation that they could donate to our teen internship fund. And that whole idea came about when we were doing the strategic planning activities out of conversations with Dr. Rowe, who's the Director of Equity and Belonging at LT. She said she's got a lot of kids who are very interested in civic engagement and are very interested in becoming more community minded. And she's like, are there ways where the library could become involved with that? So this kind of falls into that strategic goal of civic awareness and community of compassion as well. So it's a great kind of dovetail for those two things to be happening at the same time. We're trying to figure out what to call it, because Carnegie was not a great person. I mean, started libraries, we love it, but nobody's perfect. So it's still trying to find a way to honor it, but also we're going back and forth on what to name it. But that's a December gen problem, because that's when we're starting to work on that. One of the other great things that I'm just sharing because it happened today, I have spent the last month of building our workplace climate survey that went out today. So that is live for the next 2 weeks. Arcadia and I worked on it, and then we will hopefully be able to take January and February and look at some results. And then I would like to present it to the staff and eventually the board. So that's on that. I'm also on vacation starting Friday afternoon. Yay. We're in Wisconsin Dells with my family, and we're letting Parker bring 2 other 14-year-old boys. So it should be fun. I think it'll be a good time. Hopefully they can keep up with us. So, any questions about anything in the report, or you want to hear more about from the submitted report? Sorry, I didn't ask.
It's fun times. Good work as always.
And trivia winners, yay! 3 years in a row.
I know. Thanks, Jen. Any trustee comments? Okay. All right. Then I move that we adjourn this meeting at 8:29 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
That works too.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.